This podcast is sponsored by Vicon, the Academy Award-winning developer of motion capture products for the life science, entertainment, and engineering industries. Vicon provides cutting-edge hardware and software with the highest accuracy. Shogun, Vicon's visual effects software, developed specifically for the needs of the VFX community, captures full body and high-fidelity fingers effortlessly in real time and delivers robust, accurate, reliable data. Shogun now includes custom-developed virtual production tools to power your next-level project. Find out more at www.vicon.com.
Oh, hello, Internet. This is Troy Baker, and I'm here with your lovely, very, very British host, Victoria Atkin. And this is the Performance Capture Podcast.
So essentially, motion capture performers, like all the other performers, are here to tell stories.
And then they're like, you mean there are actors in video games? I thought it was animation.
I kind of created my position. Like, nobody said, oh, here you go to school to become a performance capture producer. I pretty much created my own career.
I had done so much work, I felt like it was time for me to give back to the community that was so good to me.
The dots can tell if you're lying.
Hi, my name is Victoria Atkin, and you're listening to the Performance Capture Podcast. Today, I'm extremely excited to have one of, I think, the most awesome people in performance capture. Very honored to be working with him at the moment, and I am excited to introduce you to him today and learn more about his journey through performance capture. Can you tell me your name and where you grew up, please?
My name is Tom Egan, and I grew up in New York.
And can you tell us about what you do, your title, and where you work?
I am a performance director, primarily for video games. I work all over the world doing both performance capture and audio recording, directing primarily actors in roles for video games.
And we always ask everybody that comes on this podcast how they would best describe what performance capture is, because it's such a big term and we're trying to explain this to the world. And one of the reasons I set up this podcast is that so we don't have to keep explaining our job. So if you could give us your take on what performance capture is, I would love to hear that.
Performance capture is like making a movie in 3D. It's an amazing hybrid between theater, film, and animation, done by live actors wearing a special suit that has little reflective balls on it, and those are turned into data points that then are filled in by graphic artists later. So, in a sense, they're kind of a living skeleton, and also their face and voice may be captured. That's the term. Instead of filmed, which is something on film, an optical experience, the data is taken in and then rearranged into usually a fairly lifelike or fantastic representation of the person or creature that is being portrayed by the actor. People often ask me, like at family reunions and things, they're like, "Now, Tommy, what is it exactly that you're doing with the computer games?" And so I explain performance capture, and then they're like, "You mean there are actors in video games? I thought it was animation." So that's primarily, and I have a lot of patience with that because people of an older generation who didn't grow up with video games never played them, right? And they don't look at it as a form of entertainment.
No, it's an ongoing thing trying to explain what we do. I think everybody that I've talked to on this podcast has the same thing. We were talking to an agent who said that she was trying to explain to her mum what she does for actors, booking them with performance capture.
Yes, even with a lot of agents, you are still having to explain it. Yeah, they tell their actor, that's just a video game. You don't go out for that. To me, it's a little bit like comics were when I was a kid. Comics was considered a morally corrupt influence on children and kind of a low rent thing. And now look at Marvel, right? Look at DC Comics.
It's definitely the medium to be watching out for, and I'm very excited to be part of it, and I'm glad that you're leading the way with your direction in this field. How did you discover performance capture, and how did you first become involved in it? What was your first project?
I was working in animation in the late 90s, and I got a job at a kids' educational software company. We had a license, this is so crazy, for an American Idol game. This was right around the time when American Idol first came out, right? But it was as a dance game. And so it was a PC game, a dance game, and you would sing songs and try to hit, certain beats, kind of like Dance Dance Revolution. They said, we need someone to make some pieces of movement that can all come together at to a central point. And then you win bits of movement with your avatar. And then when you get to the end of the game, the American Idol, when you become the American Idol, then your character dances, right, with the moves that you've earned. And I was like, right on, because I had a background in dance also. And I knew a lot of people at UCLA in the dance department. So I went to them and I got this really great guy. And then they said, it's going to be this thing called motion capture at this place called House of Moves. We went down there and it was just like a big, huge, open, cold cement space with a small volume. The dancer, the choreographer did all the moves coming back to a central point, right? So that the animation could blend. And it was so cool. I just was like, yeah, this is for me. This is totally, I hope to do more of this. And then around the time that I left that company, another company that I had worked with called Starbreeze on a couple of games called me up and they said, hey, we want to do this game, but it's not with the company you're working for. And I was like, hey, how about that? Because I'm just leaving. And they said, we want to do this thing. It's motion capture, but with voice. And so we're going to call it vocap. And I was like, how about that? Because I've done motion capture. And just like super lucky. And so we did this game called The Darkness, one actor at a time. We had an ADR room, and a small crew came over from England and set up like a production with these gigantic reflector balls, and then they would glue them onto the actor's face, and as soon as the actor would start to sweat,
that's insane.
Those balls would go flying, and they would be breathed in so often, just breathed right in.
Oh no!
Yes, while the actor's talking, like oh, ooh, and yeah, and they couldn't really move.
Oh,
They could just move a little bit in the volume, but because it was an
Probably just
ADR
worried about
room and
their
there was a
skin.
mic. Yeah, it was, and if you saw the hat thing that they put on their head, it literally was like a surgical cap, kind of moderated, like cut up and
Like Stranger
shredded. It was
Things?
the most, yes, it was the most god-awful looking thing, but so much fun, so much fun. And then after that, this is really crazy, I did Battlefield 3 at Pinewood in the UK. And the first shoot that we did, I kid you not, we had a squad of 4 soldiers in a volume, and they all had wired head cams.
What?
So thick, huge, like 4-inch thick cables coming off the head cams. And
Oh my!
so every single person was like, it was like marionettes. Like we were running head cams. Like I had one, each one had to have one head cam. And we had a scene where these 4 soldiers do a door breach, right? They line up inside of the door.
God.
They go clear, boom, and they put the C4, and then they have to like charge into the room through this door breach with all of these cables right underfoot. It was crazy. And right after that,
That's dangerous.
started with the wireless head cams, and then it was just like, wow, isn't this amazing? The head cams are wireless, no wires. Can you believe this, Joe? Anyway, that just kind of shows you how far we've come, because now everything's wireless. The actors
Well,
are
now we're even
wearing
going away
all the
from the
equipment.
dots. We're even
Yes.
going away from the dots now, which I've been on a couple of projects where I'm looking for the makeup person or somebody to put something on my face, and Oh, we don't need that now.
Oh, wow. I haven't done that yet, but, that sounds
Yeah.
also good.
Well, also, this is a really good thing because it's an LED light, so they tell you that your skin gets really good when you use it. So I don't know how true
Nice.
that is, but
Yeah.
apparently that's what they use in all the skincare. So apparently we're getting 2 for 1 these days. So that's
Wow.
cool. But oh my goodness, those wires, that just sounds like neck ache as well. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
I'm glad that we've
it's-
moved to wireless. So my next
yes.
question is, you've talked about, and you've obviously, I can hear in your voice, and I know from working with you, your passion for this. What is your favorite thing about motion capture? Like when you get up and you're going to set and you're going to shoot something for the day, what's your favorite thing about it?
Oh my God. I just love that it's like doing a play, that people are doing scenes. I love doing scenes. I love the prep. I do a lot of homework before I go to the set. I break down the scene into what's called beats. And so for people who aren't familiar with it, it's similar to the way movies are made or plays are done or whatever, right? You have a whole script, a whole story, and that's broken into scenes, right? And then each scene is broken into what we call beats. And a beat is kind of a unit of action between characters or a topic, right? So I break it down into beats, and then I come up with some ideas about how the beats might fit together, what might be the underlying intention for the beat, what might be behind what the people are saying, what they really mean when they're saying these words, what's underlying it, what they really want. And I come up with a whole bunch of ideas for the scene. And then I can't wait to just, see what the actors are bringing. So then I let the actors bring in whatever they're going to bring in, because in performance capture, primarily nowadays, people are memorizing the script. They're smart, they do, because, right, then their working memory isn't working so hard just trying to remember the lines. But it's then getting it on its feet. And I call it just solving the scene, finding each scene is like a wrestling match in a way, even if it's very subtle. Between, two characters, Clash of Titans. I call it, I love the idea of Clash of Titans, right? It's forces. They may be going head to head, or they may be just going side to side in a direction, but, like people in a three-legged race, right? Where one leg is tied together, they might have different rhythms about how they go about it. And that creates kind of an interesting source of conflict.
Can you tell us an experience that you've enjoyed specifically on the motion capture stage? I know you've been in this industry for a while now, and I'm sure there's been many fun things. And just in my short time with you, I have so many colorful memories of fun and silly things and cool things and great scenes that we've done. Is there anything that stands out in your experience? I'm sure there's many things, but something maybe that was funny or something that was extremely dramatic or a great scene or something that you could share with us?
Well, of course, I have a million stories, and I like to tell a lot of stories, but I think one of my most favorite experiences was in the first Wolfenstein of the set we were doing, called Wolfenstein: The New Order. There was a part in the script for the love interest of B.J. Blazkowicz, Anya. And there was there's a scene where they go and visit Anya's grandparents. Actually, they seek refuge. They're on the run from the Nazis. It's the premise of the series is kind of like The Man in the High Castle, that the Nazis won the war. The hero, B.J. Blazkowicz, who's a classic game hero, is going to rebuild the resistance and take the Nazis down. Anyway, he meets up with this nurse named Anya, and they fall in love. They flee the Nazis, and they go to the house of Anya's grandparents, who then explain to BJ, who, this is also complicated, but he had been in a coma for 14 years, and so he didn't know how the Nazis had won the war. But anyway, I had to find Polish-speaking older people to play the grandparents. And I looked hard, and in L.A., there just aren't really that many older Polish-speaking actors who also speak English, right? So they could understand me. And so I went and I looked in New York, and I just looked and looked and looked. And finally I found online this Polish-speaking theater company. trying to think of the actor's name. Her first name is Nina. I can't remember her last name right now. Unfortunately, she's deceased now. She died about maybe a year after the shoot. I contacted her, and she was super excited to meet me. And she had been an actor, fled Poland during the war, and had gone to the UK, and then studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and had really good background, and then moved to New York at some point and started this Polish theater company. And she brought in a whole bunch of other actors. So I had these two older actors in their, I would say, 80s, flew them out to LA, and it was phenomenal. They were so excited to experience the technology, and they were both really good actors. And they thought it was so cool that they were doing it. They got such a kick out of being in the suits. It was such a great experience. And it's one of my favorite scenes. There's this scene where they're sitting around the dinner table and explaining to B.J. Blazkowicz in kind of broken English and Polish how the Nazis atom bombed New York and now have complete control over it. And it was really good because it was a great performance capture moment, because since the characters don't speak English that well, they had to gesture with their hands a lot to add to the story, as people do when when you don't speak a language, you use gestures, right, to try to convey some of the meaning. So it was a perfect setup for performance capture, and it was really, I really cherish that.
That's really cool. And it's so nice that, like you say, anybody from, as long as they have good acting chops, it's kind of a world that's open to anybody of shapes and sizes, ages. It's, creatures, animals have been on the mocap stage. It's just it's like a circus of great performance and technology merging together. It's so cool. I wanted to ask you, what do you think makes, you've been accredited for many different awards during your time in performance capture, but what do you think makes a great game director, and what do you think are the differences between directing for film and TV versus in the volume?
In the volume, you need to have an ability to think spatially and really a good imagination, because you're not gonna, you're in this kind of gray padded room, this huge box without costumes, with, these kind of structural wooden sets that are really all open because you need the light. The cameras both project and receive light bouncing off the little reflective balls that creates the data. And so you have to everything has to be open, so it doesn't block that light bouncing back and forth. And so you have to have a really good imagination. You have to have a real sensitivity to actors as well. I am kind of known for the fact that I do a sound and movement warm-up at the beginning of every rehearsal and performance capture session. And I'll tell you why. I've been in the suit a few times myself, and what I discovered was that it's almost the opposite of a film in which, as a film character, you put on the costume and you're made up, and people, tweak every hair, and then you go, to something that looks like the actual, thing where the scene would take place. Here, you're doing the opposite. You go in, you strip down, you basically strip down your underwear, not in front of, in private, of course, but you put on this kind of Velcro-y catsuit, and so you're just reduced to, right, like, usually they have a few stripes of color so you can really tell who's who, because once everybody's in that suit, it's like, it's green, right? That's Victoria. She's green today.
But usually some of them now have a beautiful colored crotch, which is some of the themes of
yes.
of them. I'm not 100%
yellow
happy
crotch.
with those ones.
Yeah, Victoria's yellow crotch. And then
Let's
your
not put that
face.
in the intro.
Yeah. And your hair is all tucked away, flattened down. Your face is turned into generally a dot matrix or just blanded out. And you're all wired up. And so the performance is going to be created from your voice and your movement, your body, your intention. And the actor has to be very, very focused, and they have to be very physically focused. There's people, you kind of like celebrity people, they don't want to audition, but I always say, like, I have to at least talk to them because they have to know what they're getting into. They're gonna, you go from scene to scene to scene to scene. You're not resting in a trailer for a couple of hours between every shot. You put that catsuit on and you put that helmet on, you get wired up and you're out there and you do one scene and you do, 10 takes and then you move on to the next. Right away, they move the furniture and you're on to the next scene.
Definitely require stamina for this project. I mean,
it definitely
people ask me,
requires
do you have to be in like gym shape, athlete shape? You don't, but you have to have cardio. You have to be very physically fit with your cardio. Otherwise, you're just going to be absolutely exhausted, especially if you're on a shoot or a lead or something. If you're coming in for one day to do a guest spot, then perhaps it's okay. But if you're a lead or if you're on the set as the main ensemble, you need to have that. Otherwise, with the mic packs on your back as well and the helmets, even though they're obviously a lot less, not as heavy as they were, they're still after, a full day. It's, you want to stretch it out.
It's like hiking with, a backpack and some water, with water and, you're carrying all these things around your hips and you're on your feet, right? You're on your feet the whole day. And so that, that's the kind of stamina. It's not like gym shape stamina because we wonderfully are able to have people of all shapes and sizes. But you have to have internal stamina, I would say, right? And good focus. You have to be able to stay focused through changing circumstances as an actor. And as a director, you have to stay very focused and you have to be very collaborative because it takes so many people. And particularly if you're doing games.
Working behind the scenes that you just don't
see. And particularly in games, you can't, you can't just make a decision like, you know what, she's not going to sit on the couch or, you have to consult a whole team of people if you make a decision because all the post-production that goes into it, and there are reasons in game design where a person they can't go through a doorway yet, or they can't get out that way, or there's all kinds of reasons for everything that goes beyond the dramatic.
Can I ask you with that then? Can you tell us about the overall production experience as a performance capture director, from working with the developers, the animators and the writers to producers and casting directors? What is your greatest challenge in this creative process?
It's very challenging to enter into the world of the game without proper preparation. So I have devised my own ideal set of circumstances, I would say. Which is a process I call workshop. So what we do is the game team, presents the concept, and right away I start asking questions. They present it, and it right there illuminates a lot of things that they might not have thought of because they're in it and they've gone through so many different iterations, so many versions of it that they might have forgotten to let the player in on some basic ideas. Even sometimes when I've been working on something for 6 months, or we get on the set and suddenly it's like, wait a minute, what? Oh, later on he's going to die? You never mentioned that in all the many meetings. Oh, well, we thought you knew. Okay. Anyway, but the workshop process is designed to flush all that stuff out. So what we do is then we go through the script, every scene, hopefully with the writers as well, and we just talk about it dramatically. What's the structure of it? A lot of times scripts are written just as mission briefings in a game. Yeah. And, that's the main thing. It's like, go here, do that.
Well, that's useful for their side of things, but not always useful for a director and actors.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Actors, somebody said to me, the actors and the script are just there to hide the ones and zeros. because otherwise
wow.
that's all it would be is code. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you want
Yeah.
to really engaging, you want to create an engaging world. But there's
Well,
ways.
it's showing now with the performances
Yeah.
that you're getting from actors, and particularly the games that you've put out, the Star Wars franchise and the work that you just recently did. And as we're seeing the games developing, the software's developing, the performances, we had Janina Gavankar, who you talked about, you worked with before, and she was singing your praises, saying about how the dots don't lie. But it's the truth. If we have impeccable actors bringing these things to life, we have people that are able to connect with the stories so much easier, and the animation looks so much better, and it's so incredible how this experience is just getting better and better and better. But I think it is driven by the things that you are doing with preparation and with the actors and the dialogue between everybody involved on the set, making the story come to life and asking more of these questions and bringing, the experiences of TV, film and theater towards video games in order to create these worlds that are just extremely wonderful now. They're just so lifelike, so real, and so able for people to connect with on a human level. I think it's wonderful what you're doing, and I like hearing about the workshop process, that kind of fail to prepare to fail element of it.
Yeah.
It's,
There was some film director that said, we rehearse as much as possible so that we can improvise when we're shooting.
I love that.
So that, so that everything is, the soil has been turned over. We know the pitfalls. We know exactly where we can improvise, because really, the performance happens in the moment, or the magic happens between the people in the moment. And I always tell the developers that. I was like, we don't want to just illustrate a storyboard that you have, a lovely storyboard here, but that's 2D. Magic is going to happen between the actors differently each time. So let's create a structure where we know what the bones of the scene are, so that, there's a freshness to every scene. They're not going to run away with it, but we know the point of the scene, and it can, the connection between the people can happen, even if they've rehearsed it a million times, can happen spontaneously in the moment. And that's what we're capturing.
And that final moment of letting it go. I feel that my experience as an athlete has really helped me with performance capture, not only with the kind of physical side of things, but like you were saying, I used to be a slalom racer, and I used to prepare my mind, the course that I would go through. And then when you get up the top of the gate, before you do the race, you have to let everything go and trust your preparation. And I think that that's exactly what you're saying. It's that prepare as much as you can, and then you have the confidence too, and the trust in everybody around you to be able to let go, to be able to improvise, to be able to be in the moment. It's just cool. I could talk to you about this all day long, and I'm so grateful that I get to pick your brains more often these days. But finally, I would just love to ask, what advice would you give to other people listening that want to get into a similar field of performance capture? First of all, as a director, but also as an actor, what would an actor pursuing, wanting to start in performance capture, what piece of advice would you give to them too?
For an actor, it's similar to, getting into movies or theater or whatever. You get into the world of actors, agents, casting directors. If you have an interest in it, find out who the casting directors are, who are big in the field. I work with Emily Schweber on most of my games, and I know Ivy Eisenberg. She casts a lot of performance capture for Call of Duty and other games. Generally, we go through the agent process. We get submissions. People that I know, from various ways, from other projects that I've worked on, or actors that I've met, I will pull from as well. I really can only work with, people who've auditioned, or, if it comes down to it, people I want to work with a lot of new people, but there's so much at stake that, if I work with someone before, I know they're trustworthy, right? I know they're going to show up. I know they're going to do a good job.
Well, it is very much an
course,
ensemble piece with that as well.
It is very much an ensemble piece. And, one asshole can, really taint the ensemble, right? So, it's also people's behavior during the audition, right? That I'm screening. Our auditions, I audition very rigorously. I do usually 2 scenes. The person right now we're auditioning everything on Zoom, but before that I would audition like an on-camera audition in a slightly larger room. Usually I ask people to say their name. We take a photo of them front, side, and from either side, because the animation team has to see, and it's not like, do you have a perfect profile? It's really more like they want to see the rig, right? Because the person's body and their skeleton is going to be turned into data. And so they're going to hang what's called the rig. They're going to hang your movements on kind of a pre-made body shape. So a lot of times the range of heights can be restricted because the rig is a certain height and the data will fit more easily on a certain height person. Then I ask people to walk back and forth in character, and I can't tell you how many people blow it right there. They don't take it seriously. They don't know how to do a character walk, or they just shuffle
they drop
back and forth.
The work they just did if they've done a scene, and then
well, this is even at the beginning. They go, oh, I can walk. There, how's that? It's like if you're shuffling, if you're going to play a soldier, I'll usually say, can you walk back and forth in character, right? If you're a soldier, you got to walk like a soldier, because the movement has to feel authentic. Then we'll do 2 scenes. And it's interesting because a lot of times we need to disguise the material for security reasons. So sometimes they won't have details of the scenes. And sometimes I'll tell them, okay, so you received a scene, here's some additional information. And there's pitfalls in that because some actors have over-prepared in a very, a very stiff way that they can't, they're too rigid. They can't improvise. Yeah. They're not going to work well either because, the data, the scene may have changed the day before the shoot. The game design may have switched. And so, you're doing something different. So you have to be flexible. Yeah. And then we do 2 scenes. They have to be able to take direction. And then generally, I do a vocal test where I ask them to do a couple of battle shouts. So you have to be, collaborative. You have to be flexible. You have to be, I think, a vocal athlete in many ways. You have to be able to sustain the voice in, loud speech and soft. And then you have to be right for the role.
All right, well, I'm going to have to wrap this up. I literally could talk to you for hours on this. Can anybody find you on social media? I know you run several things.
My website is tomkeegan.net. And on Facebook and Instagram, I'm under Tom K Studios. TOMK Studios, one word.
Well, thank you so much for coming on this podcast, Tom. I'm thrilled to be able to get to work with you, get to talk to you, get to pick your brain about your just phenomenal talent and contribution to this industry. I want to thank you from myself, but also from the whole industry of all your contribution, because it's really, you're making history with your work. You're a pioneer in this field, and I'm privileged to know you and to work with you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really lovely. Thank you. And it's great working with you, and all the people in this industry are so talented and creative. I love being part of it. I feel so fortunate.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks,
Victoria. Take care.
Season 3 of the Performance Capture podcast was recorded and edited at Soundbox Studios in Los Angeles. Soundbox LA is the founding studio in the Soundbox Studio Group, a collective of talent-owned and operated boutique voiceover studios with multiple locations in the Los Angeles area and southern Colorado. You can find out more at soundbox.la. We'd like to send out a huge thanks to Soundbox Studio City's very own Ryan Riveros for editing the episodes of Season 2 and now Season 3. The multi-talented Ryan is also the composer of our theme music.